Welcome everyone to the Ordinary Council meeting at the Wellington Shire for the 7th of May 2024. Members of the public gallery should note that Council records and publishes Council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of Council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate times during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with the Council via the online web form should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please could gallery visitors, councillors and invited online attendees ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode during the duration of the meeting. Wellington Shire Council acknowledges our offices are located on the traditional lands of the Gunai-Kurnai Nation. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and future and acknowledge their ongoing cultural and spiritual connections to their land and waters. We have one apology, which is Councillor Crosley for tonight's meeting. Is there any declaration of conflicts of interest? No? Item 3.1, adoption of minutes of the previous Council meeting. Someone to move that, please. Councillor Wood.
I move that Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the Ordinary Council meeting of the 16th of April 2024.
And second by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Happy with that, Councillor Wood? Thank you. Item 4, business arising from previous meetings. There are none. Item 5, acceptance of late or urgent items. There are none. Item 6, notice of motion. There are none. Item 7, receiving of petitions or joint letters. There are none. So we move on to item 8, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. Do we have any?
Yes.
Oh, 3 hands go up. We will go with maybe Councillor Ripper first.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to acknowledge Stratford last Tuesday evening. I was asked to open the domestic violence vigil, the first time that Stratford had a vigil, and the vigil was organised by the Stratford Committee Association, who the chair is Shane. It was a very, very solemn evening, but a very good evening. We had about 30 attendees, which we were very pleased with for a first time, and we had Micah Harrington played a very fitting song for the evening, and Shane delivered a very moving speech. So we had people from the domestic violence, professional people there to speak with people. It was mostly dark, which there was lights and people had torches and we had candles. But the beauty of that being dark was that some people who had come, mothers and pushers, and there were some men there too, that they could speak and not sort of be in a room like this that people could see who they were. So that was a really lovely evening and I thank Shane and Micah for that. Also in Sale there was the domestic violence vigil, and that was held in the mall at the Clock Tower, and that was attended by Councillor Mackenzie, and I am led to believe there was approximately 200 attended that evening. So thank you for that. My second one is in Stratford on Saturday, a walk and talk for the Black Dog Institute, and a local gentleman called Cal Coleman came up with this idea during COVID. A lot of his friends he believed and spoke with that were suffering from some form of mental health. The invisible illness that we cannot see. None of us can see that. And I've spoken to Cal over the 3 years and encouraged him, and once again he asked would I send the walkers off from Pine Lodge in Stratford to Bryagalong, and we had the local Lions were on board and they were controlling the road with signs and safety first, of course. And this is the 3rd year, as I mentioned, and it was a family fun day at Bryagalong in the afternoon once everyone got there. There was about half a dozen drink stations And I admit I rode the first 2 years, but this year I didn't ride, I just I drove out. But the individual drink stations, there was so much talk and kindness given to everyone who was walking, no matter who they were. The whole atmosphere of the day was an absolute joy to be part of. So I thank all those competitors, and there was over 150, so it's increasing every year. So that was another event in Stratford. And the last one is the Stratford-on-Avon Shakespeare Festival, which the Mayor, Councillor Bye and Councillor Mackenzie and myself attended the opening night, and it's gone so fast. That was from the 18th of April to the 5th of May. There was 19 events over that period of time, and I may, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would believe that this is possibly the longest actual event that we hold within the Wellington Shire. And it culminated on the Sunday with the fair day. And on that day there was various Shakespeare type of fairs, there was jousting, and there was just so many people dressed up as you could have been in Stratford and Avon in England. Now, one of the highlights this year, unfortunately I wasn't there at the time, but I've seen various videos, was Gavin Roberts, who runs the Colt, which is for past spoon making and all past history of what used to make years ago. He had a unicycle and he raced against Miss McCubbin, one of our past councillors and mayor, and I asked Gavin who won, and Gavin said there's no real evidence of who won the said race. So that was a wonderful day, and they had singer-songwriters in the evening and a bonfire. So there are 3 events in a very short space of time held in Stratford. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ripper. Because Councillor Tatterson's a gentleman, Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to acknowledge the Yarram Rotary Club the Rotary Club of Yarram. I was asked to speak there last week, and I just wanted to say well done, and if Councillor Stevens can pass that on to the Rotary Club members, because I was really impressed with the work that they've actually been undertaking, and very quietly as well within the Yarram community. On the weekend, they actually ran the Star Wars trilogy at the Regent Theatre celebrating May the 4th. And there's certainly quite a few members and residents that were dressed up in Star Wars paraphernalia, and they certainly look good. The Rotary Club has also just launched the Yarram Says No to Family Violence, which they've printed off a number of stickers that they're hoping will be shared out and about within the community, just reflecting that the community says no to violence, and how, I guess, at the end of the day, it's acknowledging and having those conversations around domestic violence, and that is what they're certainly trying to progress, and that is something that is certainly needed within our communities. They've also purchased player bibs for a local indoor soccer sport that they're actually setting up, which will be great at the badminton stadium, and they're starting English language conversation dialogue sessions for those who want to strengthen their English, and they're currently looking at playing for possibly a 6-week period international movies, which will also progress cultural promotion within the town. And we certainly have a lot of backpackers that are coming in from all spans of our world, and it's actually great to know that they're visiting Yarram, and if we can offer something that makes them feel like home, and as well as educating the locals about the cultural significances of those places, then I think it's a really good thing. So yeah, there's great work being done, and I just want to say thank you on behalf of the community.
Thank you, Councillor Marr. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge all our local RSLs, all the volunteers and all the people involved in the recent Anzac Day. I had the privilege of attending on behalf of Council the Stratford and Hayfield services, and the numbers are fantastic. So for my observation, the importance and the understanding and the community engagement with Anzac Day has continued to grow over the last 10 years, and it's certainly great that we've been able to be involved. And I'd also like to thank the fellow councillors who did attend services right across the Shire, and it is great to see that Anzac Day is now becoming a really popular event. So thank you for everyone that was involved, and particularly those volunteers.
Most certainly. Thank you, Councillor Tatterson. Is there any other acknowledgements or presentations? If not, I have 4. Might indulge for a little while. Thank you, Councillor Rossetti, for looking at your watch. You will learn some interesting things. First one, I was invited to an event at the Immigration Museum in Melbourne, and it was on the Tuesday the 23rd of April, and it was run by Siemens. Many people in the room have asked me, who is Siemens? You will find out. But at that evening, there was quite a few important people there, such as Minister D'Ambrosio was invited. I'll go further with that in a moment. But who is Siemens? So Siemens has actually been active in Australia for over 150 years. Back in 1847, Werner von Siemens dispatched his younger siblings to develop his patents internationally. Back in the 1870s, cable fever reached Australia, and people might go, what was that? So amidst the global rush of new communication medium, the Adelaide to Darwin overland telegraph line project would first bring Siemens to Australia in the early 1870s. Siemens would supply 36,000, so this is the 1870s, porcelain insulators for the 2,700 kilometre overland telegraph line. Quite amazing. Back then, it would have been a project of $104 million in today's money. So you can imagine back then, they had to transport using camels, of course, because it was across the desert. So today, the Adelaide to Darwin overland telegraph line is recognised as one of the great engineering achievements of the 19th century in Australia, and is credited with opening up telegraph communication from Australia to the world. So that gives you an indication of how strong Siemens is. They've been operating in Australia for over 150 years. Great company, and one of the top tier worldwide companies. The event was about telling a lot of people about what was happening with Siemens International, but also what is happening in Australia. Marathon Future Industries, which Brett Singh is one of the directors of that company, was there as well. And Siemens announced in front of the Minister an MOU with Marathon Future Industries that they are going to undertake some renewable energy projects and other projects in Gippsland, and in particular in the Wellington Shire. So we definitely welcome bigger companies such as Siemens to come forward and state out to the public they want to get involved in businesses and helping with developing some important infrastructure here in Wellington. So thank you very much, Siemens, for the invite. They also presented me with, only one went to the Minister, and lucky enough that they presented a scarf to me as well. And it's not just any scarf. What it is a scarf that, and I'll hold it up in a moment when I get organised, it's a scarf that actually portrays the history of Siemens by way of Aboriginal, and I'll read out what is actually on the scarf. So it was created by John Patton with youth from Sunbury Aboriginal Corporation. This artwork commemorates Seaman's 150-year history in Australia. Through the lens of Indigenous art, this design tells the story of our continued dedication to progress and innovation. So as I said, they have got that and developed that with the help of Indigenous to actually put together the history on a scarf of Seaman's for 150 years in Australia. And it's a beautiful scarf. So I'm going to actually present that to my Deputy Mayor. I think that's fitting that she can wear that beautiful scarf when she feels fit. But thank you, Seaman's, and we'll do a photo later and send to Seaman's of that great presentation. Did you want one as well, Councillor Rossetti? Thank you again, Seaman's. The second one I'd like to discuss is, I must apologise. I was born in 1971, so I'm a young buck, but the Small Bore Rifle Club was established in 1955. In 1955. So people might go, who's the Small Bore Rifle Club? And they actually gave me the history of the club, which I'll pass around to everyone that would like to read that. It's an interesting club. They're very responsible with the use of firearms, of course. The original club was opened by Mayor Cartledge, who fired the first shot at the opening in 1955. They did move sites a couple of times. They were at the showgrounds. They were down near the rowing sheds at one stage. But they were moved in 1975 by the Shire because there were some trees in the road of their shooting range. So they wanted to go a site that was unimpeded. So Mayor Aussie Ruff at the time opened the new facility. They have a 20 metre, a 50 metre and 90 metre ranges. And it's interesting when they look at their small group of 35 to 40 members, the success they have. In all the grades in the state, they are number one. They have quite a few juniors. Two of the juniors in particular are ranked number one in the ladies and the men's junior divisions in Australia. Young Darcy, which is one of the 14-year-olds, she actually, it's an Olympic sport, an Olympic event, and 3 people in Australia are lucky enough to get selected to go to the Olympics, and it's first, second, third. She actually come as a 14-year-old, 8th in the whole of Australia against the adults to get selected to go actually represent at the Olympics. So maybe a big future there for young Darcy, that one day we might see a homegrown sale product actually represent Wellington at the Olympics. So great club, excellent history of what they do, and congratulations to what they provide for the community. The third one that I would like to let everyone know is recently at the recent local government Pro Awards for Excellence in Melbourne, the Wellington Shire Council and East Gippsland Shire were presented a joint award for innovative management initiatives. So the local government Pro Awards for Excellence promote and celebrate the outstanding work being undertaken and delivered by individuals and teams working in local government across Victoria. The award recognised a joint initiative between Wellington and East Gippsland Shire Councils, which marks a groundbreaking milestone in local government collaboration and technology innovation. By consolidating data centres and ICT infrastructure, both councils achieved remarkable advances in cybersecurity, data protection and disaster recovery services. The project also significantly reduces the environmental footprints of both councils while improving service efficiencies and cost savings. So it's a well recognised award, and I congratulate both the teams of Wellington Shire and East Gippsland Shire on receiving such a coveted award. It's quite an impressive trophy that was presented at the awards with, of course, a framed certificate. So very proud, all us councillors are, of course, of the team that put that together. It's part of our shared services initiative that we have done with the East Gippsland Shire, and I think it's fantastic to see that we actually get accolades at a high level for all the hard work that has actually happened.
I'll make sure that's passed on to all.
I'd like to just invite Arthur Skipataris, who is the General Manager of that initiative for the shared service, to come forward and take these back to his team to display. And finally, my final one, which is an important one. Over the Anzac Day weekend, how exciting was it that the weather turned it on for the Anzac Middle of Everywhere Air Show at West Sale Aerodrome? It was the second time we'd done that. Of course, we did that back in 2022, which was the inaugural one. There had been one done about 15 years before, but this is bigger and better what we're doing now. It was exciting to see that it was well supported. We had the RAF roulettes, of course, and we thank the Department of Defence because they're our local grown professional that go out and do these sort of air shows. So thank you for supporting the event. Paul Bennett Air Shows, he put on a great display of bringing his planes down. I still don't know how he gets his yellow biplane to go along close off the ground. It's quite extraordinary to see. And definitely we need to thank the West Sale Airport tenants and the operators for helping us deliver such a great event where they operate and lease as well. And of course, the event cannot go forward without the many volunteers that we all rely on to make events successful. We had over 80 volunteers that did give up their time to help with different things for the air show. We had many events that were there that people could participate in, and I think the 2 days were handled very well, and everyone that went along, I've only had glowing reports from how great a day it was for all involved. We had over 14,000 attendees, which was 2,000 more than our first inaugural event 2 years before. So quite amazing with the people that were coming. All of our accommodation, our eateries were well supported, so the economic benefit for the region, we haven't measured that fully yet, but it will be in the millions for sure with what we actually did have. So thank you for all the exhibitors that did turn up. We had large emergency services present, SES, police, etc., and lots of others that were there to help with making a successful event. Thank you, of course, to all our sponsors, because without sponsors as well, it's very hard to put these large-scale events on. So we look forward to 2026, which will be the next air show, and we will have that bigger and better. I've asked the RAF if they can supply a couple of growlers to just liven it up a little bit, so we'll see if that actually happens. And a big shout out to the Middle of Everywhere team, of course, that without them going way beyond what they always do for our events, thank you very much for putting together another great event for the Middle of Everywhere. So thank you, everyone. Item 9, questions on notice. We have none. Item 10, Delegates Report. I believe we have one.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to provide my Delegates Report, Star of the South Community Advisory Group meeting, April 17. The Star of the South Community Advisory Group is made up of various community leaders, ranging from fishermen, conservationists, farmers and community advocates. The group was formed some 4 years ago to assist in keeping communities informed of what the Star of the South project is, how it will affect communities and stay connected. Star of the South also have a community office located in Commercial Road, Yarram. All members are voluntary and receive no financial compensation for their time and are not employed by Star of the South, hence there is no conflict of interest. The Community Advisory Group met at Sale on Wednesday, April 17, with special guests from VicGrid being Denny Benjamin, Executive Director Project Delivery, and Nishana Pereira, Project Director, who provided a further update on the Gippsland transmission study area announced in March. Discussion was certainly robust, with Denny and Nishana responding as best they could to a range of questions from the group and explained why VicGrid have chosen to construct overhead transmission infrastructure rather than underground or a combination of both. Of concern was the following to the group. The current proposed transmission line, as being presented to the community by VicGrid, will accommodate 2 gigawatt of power, yet the offshore wind farm project being tabled by the federal and state governments states that the expectation is for a 9 gigawatt of power, with the long-term expectation being in the range of 25 gigawatt, referred to Gippsland Times May 3 edition. In layman's terms, that will mean a minimum of an additional 4 transmission lines if we use the current scenario of just 9 gigawatt, hence VicGrid's statement from their CEO advising that they do not want a spaghetti effect of lines through Wellington is of concern. How can there not be a spaghetti effect if so much electricity is forecast to come through the Shire? VicGrid need to be open and transparent with the community on their vision of future transmission lines to cater for the additional 7 gigawatt of power that is to be serviced by 2032. Where does VicGrid propose to build the additional transmission lines and how will that look? VicGrid advised that when they have been doing their community engagement surveys, that when the community has been asked what their preference would be of transmission lines versus underground, some 80% advised underground. Yet VicGrid has stated that underground will not be their avenue of connection, only transmission lines. Hence they have listened, however they have at the same time gone against community wishes, and based on feedback from the Community Advisory Committee, the community are not happy. Discussions then came to Star of the South's preferred connection of going underground. To clarify any misinformation, the group was advised that Star of the South can go underground, however will receive no financial assistance from VicGrid to assist in this type of construction. The group was then advised by a representative of Star of the South that by going underground would add a further $1 to $3 billion on the project and be uncompetitive with all other offshore proponents that would link to the transmission line developed by VicGrid. Put simply, unless the proponents link to the VicGrid transmission lines, there will be no financial assistance for their preferred concept. Currently, the Mayor has written to the State Minister of Energy for a meeting due to the concerns of our Council, that our Council have in respect to VicGrid's plans, and as Council we need to be leading those discussions so that we can have answers for our community. This is the generational change that will impact our communities forever, and as we, the community's local government, we have a responsibility to have both the State and VicGrid provide the full blueprint of how they see the future of renewable energy within the Wellington Shire. Time is of the essence. Our community needs to know what their future looks like, as this current council has had between 4 to 6 years of renewable presentations from private investors to government institutions, so it's up to this council to leave a positive footprint for the new council that will start November 2024. With the announcement by the federal government last week of awarding 6 feasibility licences to offshore proponents, this is the perfect time for the Mayor and CEO to write an open letter to those CEOs and work through how they see the future and whether together they can share the cost of underground that the community overwhelmingly endorsed. It can be done, as was achieved by the Wonthaggi desalination plant that under the Brumby government were 100% transmission. However, after careful consideration, engineered over 83 kilometres of underground electricity cabling that to this day has never been affected by any climate-related incidents. We have a duty of care to our community and future council to address this matter urgently. On a less emotional topic, Darren McCubbin, along with Glenn McColl, joined a renewable energy delegation from Australia to travel to Germany that has been in the renewable space since 1998 to investigate the offshore wind industry and how it operates. Darren and Glenn shared the presentation of their trip with the members. The sheer size and scope of wind farm development in Europe is staggering. The presentation was both powerful and informative and would recommend the Council to invite Darren to present their findings. Darren's views on where Australia stands in the offshore space and his comment that the clock is ticking and that Wellington Shire needs to be on the front foot. In summary, my takeaway from the meeting is that VicGrid are not being transparent with the Wellington community, and as Council we have a responsibility to obtain clarity of what VicGrid proposes, as 98% of whatever they propose will be right in our Shire and the community have a right to know. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. And I've actually written on behalf of Council to all of the successful companies. So the initial 6 companies that were in stage 1 and the additional 4 companies that are in stage 2, inviting them to come forward to Council and start discussing their plans for the future and how Wellington Shire is included. So those letters have gone out. Item 11.1, Assembly of Council Reports. Someone to move that, please.
I'd like to
Councillor
move.
Marr.
I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 8th of April 2024 to the 28th of April 2024.
And second by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Marr, happy with that? Thank you, Councillor Marr. Item 11.2, CEO Remuneration and Employment Committee Recommendations.
Mayor, I might, given that this is specifically referring to me, I might actually leave the room while council discuss this motion.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. So if I could have someone to move that motion, Councillor
I'm
Marr.
happy to move that. I move that 1, Council receive and note the CERC minutes of meeting in brief of 9th of April 2024, attachment 11.2.1, and approve the following CERC recommendations: amendments to the CEO Employment and Remuneration Policy, attached 11.2.2, provision of administrative support for the CERC and independent advisor, attached 11.2.1, appointment of Mr Michael Maloof as an independent advisor, attachment 11.2.1, and confidential attachments 11.2.5 and 11.2.6. The CEO 23-24 performance review and 24-25 CEO KPI timelines as per attached 11.2.1 and confidential attachments 11.2.7. And 2, the information contained in the confidential documents of this council meeting agenda and designated confidential under section 3.1 confidential information of the Local Government Act 2020 by the General Manager Corporate Services on 30th of April 2024 because it relates to the following grounds: F, personal information, being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs.
And seconded by Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. The CEO Remuneration and Employment Committee first met on the 9th of April, and their primary objective is to oversee the CEO's performance as per the terms and conditions of his contract. As a result of the meeting, minor amendments to the policy were made, and they can be seen as per the attachment, as well as the provision of support from the GM of Corporate Services, Arthur Skipitaris, and the Executive Assistant, Leah Carubria, who I must say is the powerhouse behind all of councillors and getting us to places where we need to be. So well done, Leah. There was also a recommendation with the appointment of Mr Michael Maloof, the independent advisor, for a 3-year term, and performance review of the 24-25 timelines. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marr. I'll just get the CEO back into the room. Item 11.3, update of Councillors' Code of Conduct. Someone to move that, please.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council 1, approve the revised Councillor Code of Conduct as attached, and 2, authorise the publication of the revised Councillor Conduct on Council's website.
And seconded by Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. The background for the report is this report sets out proposed amendments to the Councillor Code of Conduct, the Code, at attachment 11.3.1. The Local Government Act 2020, the Act requires Council to have a Councillor Code of Conduct, and the Act provides for the amendment of the Code at any time. The proposed amendment of the Code is to strengthen the Council's position of zero tolerance on child abuse as outlined in Councillor's Child Safe Policy, Internal Policy Number 2.14. The attached Councillor Code of Conduct contains all revisions which have been highlighted in yellow for ease of review. Once approved by Council, a final formatted copy will be released to councillors and made available for public access on Councillor's website. And for those who aren't on the web, they can go to their local library and ask the librarian will give them a copy, or if so, print a copy. Councillors' Child Safe policy provides a framework for Council to meet the obligations under the Child Wellbeing and Safety Act 2005 and the Victorian Child Safe Standards. Victoria first introduced child safety standards in 2016. In July 2022, the Victorian Child Safe Standards were updated to align more closely with the national principles for child safe organisations. There are now 11 child safe standards. Standard 2 requires child safety to be embedded in organisational leadership, governance and culture. A minimum, this requires, I say again, I missed out a word, as a minimum, this requires the organisations to make a public commitment to child safety, a child safe culture to be championed and modelled on all levels of the organisation from top down to bottom up, governance arrangements to facilitate the implementation of the child safety policy at all levels, a code of conduct that provides staff and volunteers with expected behavioural standards and responsibilities, risk management strategies that focus on preventing, identifying and mitigating risk to children and young people, staff and volunteers to understand their obligations on information sharing and record keeping. With these legal and moral responsibilities in existence, the Code should reflect expectations of councillor conduct in maintaining the highest standards of professional conduct in their attitude and behaviours towards and in their interactions with children and young people. As leaders, councillors have a responsibility to uphold the rights and best interests of children and young people. Some Victorian councils have already incorporated reference to child safety in their councillor code of conduct. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ripper. Item 12.1, Urban and Rural Tree Management Panel, 2024-079. Someone to move that, please. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council receive and consider this report and all attachments pertaining to this report and items 2 and 3 as written in the agenda.
And seconded by Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mayor. These contractors are really important for us in maintaining our urban forest, which is really important across all our townships, and also providing services out in our rural areas in cleaning and clearing and pruning trees and emergency response. So this is a really important part of our business, and certainly from an urban forest, it's important that we not only plant more trees, but we look after those trees once they're planted. So thanks to the staff in preparing these reports, and good luck to those contractors in making our urban forest great.
Thanks, Councillor Tatterson. We have no one in the gallery. Is there any online comments, Mr CEO?
None, Mayor.
None? In that case, I'll declare the meeting closed at 5:38. Thank you, everyone.